Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Midday Live on TV3 with me, Martin, Asiedu-Dartey. Coming up within the next 1 hour, here are the top stories. Auditor General issues 4 certificates of indebtedness to public servants for causing financial loss to the state. We understand about 7 more persons would be named by close of day today. Details coming up shortly. Also, the minority has returned to Parliament to attend to business of the day following a walkout that was staged yesterday. Details of that coming up, including all the other developments from the House of Parliament. In other news, Christian Council of Ghana insists that the 2 Gitmo detainees must be returned to the United States. Why do they keep their stance on this position? We'll be finding out why shortly. And the Ghana 60 Years On Committee refutes allegation that it spent 5.26 million cedis for the public purse, from the public purse on the activities of Ghana's 60th anniversary. We'll be digging into that shortly. And the man at the center of the Mawako trial, that is Shaban Jihad, has been given 9 months imprisonment for what the court has seen as an assault and causing harm. Details coming up shortly. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. The details of our stories now. This is news just coming in hot on the burners. The Ghana 60 Years On Committee says it has not spent 5.26 million cedis from the public purse on the activities of Ghana's anniversary. A member of the committee and Deputy Chief of Staff, Abu Jinapo, says the amount was rather released by the Ministry of Finance to offset debts owed security officers and MMDAs.
At a news conference in Accra on activities outlined on August 4 to celebrate the contributions of founders of the United Gold Coast Convention, the committee denied spending from the public purse. The committee said the amount was released by the Minister of Finance to offset debts owed security officers and MMDAs.
Now, the matters relating to the military and police and the appropriation and rest were funded by central government from this 5.2 million Ghana cedis. And this is an expenditure which should have taken place anyway, whether Ghana was 60th or 40th. And I have a bill, I have a budget for last year's parade and so on and so forth. But an event by the committee was to have cultural display from all the 10 regions of Ghana. This was a 60th anniversary event. So pretended over by the 60th anniversary committee. The entire bill for that component of SITMAT was borne by the 60th anniversary committee.
The 70th anniversary of the founding of the United Gold Coast Convention will be held at Salt Pond and will be honored by the President Nana Akufo-Addo. According to the committee, the event is to celebrate the role played by those whose ideas set up the UGCC. The event, which will be honored by the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, will also seek to adopt the exemplary leadership of the leaders of the UGCC. Some of the leaders who set up the UGCC were Pa Grant, a financier of the party, Dr. J.B. Dankwa, and Akweje. Abu Jinapo is a Deputy Chief of Staff and a member of the Ghana 60 Years On Committee.
On Friday, 4th August, the Ghana 60 Years On Planning Committee is going to hold a memorial and Thanksgiving service at Salt Pond for the establishment of the United Gold Coast Convention. We've deliberated upon it as a committee and come to the conclusion that the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Professor Mike Okwe, be the man to deliver Ghana's 60th Independence Anniversary Lecture. Again, as you may be aware, Professor Okwe is a distinguished academic, he's a distinguished politician, he's a distinguished lawyer, he's a religious leader, and he's a man who's had many experiences in Ghanaian political and public life.
All right, so certainly various opinions will be coming out as a result of how much exactly was accrued from those that contributed for the celebration of Ghana 60, and then also how much of that amount of money was expended. We'll keep an eye on it and keep you posted subsequently. Let's go to the courts now, because the Accra District Court has sentenced Jihad Shaban, who is the supervisor at the Olympic branch of Mawako restaurant, to 9 months in prison for causing harm. Magistrate Victoria Gansa indicated it was to serve as a deterrent to other employers, and went on to indicate that there was a causation of harm as well. Salam Amenya is my colleague in court. He's joined us to give us an update of that.
Beyond reasonable doubt that he indeed acted offensively, or the first count of offensive conduct was not really proven by the prosecution. But with count 2 and count 3, which borders on assault and also causing harm, the court actually convicted him based on those 2 counts. And the first count, which is causing harm, he was actually sentenced for 6 months, and then that of assault, he was sentenced for 9 months. And these 2 sentences are going to run concurrently. So in effect, he's going to be in prison for 9 months. And then Julio de Medero, who happens to be the lead counsel for Jihad Shaban, is saying that he disagrees totally with the ruling or the judgment of the court, and therefore they are going to appeal this particular judgment and also apply for bail pending the outcome of the appeal. Salam Amenya for TV3 News, Accra District Court.
All right, let's turn our attention to some other stories now. And members of the invisible forces in Tema have threatened to visit mayhem on government officials over their failure to provide them jobs. Angry, heavily built men who stormed a town hall meeting organized by the Information Ministry in Tema says they have run out of patience on the failed promises by government.
It was a maiden edition of the town hall meeting organized by the Information Ministry. Angry and outraged members of the New Patriotic Party's vigilante group Invisible Forces were clear in their message.
We want to tell our people, if they will not give us work to do, what happened at Kumasi, the same thing will happen here.
Venting their anger, the disgruntled group called the bluff of some senior members of the party who they claim have deserted them despite their sacrifices for the party.
We are even ashamed. Some of us we are working in the sun and we are laughing at that. Is that how the party is supposed to treat us? Invisible!
Early on this year, members of the Delta Force, a pro-MPP vigilante group, stormed the offices of the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council and removed the President's security coordinator appointee, who they claim they do not know. The President later directed the Inspector General of Police to deal ruthlessly with any group which flouts the laws of Ghana by visiting mayhem on innocent individuals. These current threats by these individuals is yet to be given a direct response from government, despite the presence of the Minister of Information at a town hall meeting. Komla Klusha, MG News, Accra.
All right, so what we will do is speak to James Agalga. He's the ranking member for Defense and Interior in Parliament, to find out really whether we should be worried as a country for these vigilante groups, specifically the Invisible Forces, to show such acts of brazen, some call it disrespect to authority, and for them to also come out to cry out loud that they are not being given the assistance promised. Is it a fair call? Are they justified in that regard? When we do get him, we'll put some of these questions to him here on Midday Live on TV3. While we work the lines to get Mr. Agalga on, let's go to the former president's office. And now that is former President Jerry John Rawlings, he has backed the AMA's chief executive to rid the city of filth. And I'm told that we have Mr. James Agalga on the line. We'll bring you that story shortly about former President Rawlings. Mr. Agalga, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
To start with, as a country, should we be afraid, or should we live in fear following these kinds of brazen public threat by, for now, the invisible forces and by extension, vigilante groups?
Yes, I think that at the moment, Ghanaians are living in a state of general insecurity. And that for me is very unusual and abnormal. One would have thought that given the history of the vigilante groups and the brutality they have unleashed ever since the President Nana-Addo took over the reins of governance in this country, something drastic would have been done to curb their activity. But unfortunately, not much has been done. And so a certain culture of impunity has taken root. And for me, that has emboldened the so-called vigilante groups to, begin to act in ways that suggest that they have become institutions in their own right. And so if you have a state where political vigilantism is becoming institutionalized and the security agencies are helpless, I mean, we are all in for trouble. And so I have no doubt in my mind that Ghanaians now live in a state of insecurity.
We do not want to politicize this, but vigilante groups in general, what is your position on it if you say the state is not doing anything about it? And who is the they you are referring to?
Look, I am sure your point in reference is what happened at Tema when the Ministry of Information organized a town hall meeting.
Yes.
And elements of the invisible forces vigilante group stormed the town hall meeting and openly threatened the government of Nana-Addo that if they fail to provide them with jobs, what happened in Kumasi is going to repeat itself in Tema. Now the question to ask is, what happened in Kumasi? I am sure we are all aware about the behavior, the misconduct
we want to know.
Force group in Kumasi when they stormed a court
Mr.
of law
Agalga,
and chased out
this background now, you're giving, we just want to know that the they you refer to, is it the government, is it civil society, is it the security forces? It probably could be Parliament, and specifically the Defense and Interior Committee, of which you are a ranking member.
No, I am referring to the government. I am referring to the government because the provision of security in our country, the maintenance of law and order, is a mandate that the government discharges and not Parliament. The executive arm of government is responsible for the maintenance of law and order. And so one cannot shift the goalpost. I mean, it's clearly a function that the executive must perform.
Okay.
So let's not mislead
but
apart from public.
So my final question would be, apart from the government, what is the Defense and Interior Committee in Parliament doing? What can be done about it? Has it ever come up for discussion about the activities of vigilante groups countrywide?
Look, statements were made on the floor of Parliament. The issue thoroughly. I recall that I even wrote a statement condemning the behavior of political vigilante groups in this country. Unfortunately, the Speaker of Parliament did not admit my statement. And yet I am the ranking member for the Defense and the Interior Committee. And so it appears to do our work as a minority group, and for me in particular, as the ranking member for the Defense and Interior Committee. Questions have been filed. The Minister for National Security appeared before the House and answered questions on the behavior of political vigilante groups in the country and steps that were being taken to deal with them. Unfortunately, the issue lingers on. There is no end in sight. And for me, that is most unfortunate.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking with us. We are grateful. James Agalga is a ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Ghana's Parliament, sharing his thoughts on the developments from Tema yesterday. Those invisible forces, brazenly in the public said that, quote, if you do not help us, what happened in Kumasi will also happen here, unquote. That is a threat, not only to the government, but to the people at large. How can we deal with that? We'll be speaking to a security analyst shortly, Justin Bayo, on how he thinks the country and the security forces, for that matter, can deal with these issues so they do not get out of hand. While we try the line to get him on, let's go to the former president's office again. Now, former President Jerry John Rawlings has backed the AMA chief executive to rid the city of filth. I'll bring you that story shortly. Justin Bayo has joined us. He's a security analyst. Mr. Bayo, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Mr. Bayo.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. What do you think are the immediate steps that should have been taken following the threat that was publicly thrown by these invisible forces?
Thank you very much. I believe that of late we have realized the great impunity that these particular forces are adopting. And even though they are seen or saying that they are invisible forces, they are known. We know the faces. So once they have thrown the challenge, we should be able to identify those people who have made those challenges and try to bring them to book. We should arrest them and then try to actually deal with them so that it will serve as a warning to others who want to take that particular path.
Who should do the arresting? The police or the military or government should give a directive and order for that to be done?
But that's the answer. The government is in charge and we should see them to be exercising a strong hand. So at this moment, we expect the government to use the proper agencies to deal with such culprits.
A few years back, hardly would you see or get to know who. We just knew of their existence, the Kandahar boys, the Azoka and all of that. But it looks as if in recent years, they are bold to come out publicly. What do you think is accounting for such boldness and brazenness?
Because we have failed, the authorities have failed to deal decisively with such people. Even though sometimes we believe they don't have any leadership, we have always known certain people to be in charge of such groups. We can always identify them, get them by the right agencies, and then deal with them. If we do not do anything, then we will see that there will be greater impunity, and of course, it will undermine the security of the state.
We know that, like you mentioned, we know that they have leadership. And there is that public knowledge that if you kill a snake and you do not cut off the head, you have actually not done much. So in this case, if we arrest these persons and leave out the person who is financing them or the person who created these organizations, do you think we are attacking the problem head on? Is that the right approach to it?
First of all, we are not saying that we just deal with these people. Get them, identify all those invisible faces behind these forces, and also deal with them. I do believe that if we get the leadership, they'll be able to mention those who are behind them. And then we get all of them and then deal with them. That is the only solution. If we fail to do so, then we are sending warning signals to other forces and like-minded persons to also adopt such postures. And that is not good for the security of the state.
Okay, my final question will be, so arrest them, look at the numbers. Invisible forces alone, counting into the 200-300s. Then we have the other groups. So what would the modus operandi be? To arrest them and then what?
Are you telling me that the state is incapable of dealing with such people? Are they beyond the capacity of the police or the army to deal with? I do believe that these particular agencies can deal with them if they are given the opportunity to do so. What is happening is that certain categories of people are trying to shield them for their own interests, which is not good for us as a nation.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I believe the state security and the government, for that matter, is also paying attention to this. But thank you very much for making time to speak with us. Justin Bayo is a security analyst helping us put into perspective developments about, such vigilante groups in the country and how we can nip it in the bud. Now let me bring you the former president's story. So he has backed the AMA chief executive to rid the city of filth, following the promise by Nana Akufo-Addo that they're going to ensure Accra becomes the cleanest city in the shortest possible time. A team of sanitary inspectors led by the chief executive visited parts of Accra, including the residence of the former president, as part of efforts to begin a clean-up exercise in Accra.
The team began their journey from the Accra interchange through Ridge Runabout, where they inspected facilities along that path to ensure that companies and individuals abide by strict environmental practices. Before Ghana's 50th anniversary, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly had city inspectors from the town council who combed every town and city to ensure that citizens tidy up their homes. But however, the project, which was thought to be the best remedy to fighting Ghana's filth, was short-lived. Years after, the AMA is reigniting the Cleaning Ghana project titled Sama Sama Project, where sanitation inspectors have been mandated to ensure a clean environment and penalize offenders. During the inspection, 3 companies were served with warning notice and were given 5 days to tidy up. The Barclays Social Center, the Independence Avenue and the new branch of Carl Bank were outrightly served with notice. As a way of encouragement, the team awarded members of the public who ensured that the environment was clean.
The law requires that you keep your surroundings also clean, as well as your inner compound. So we wish to come to those areas as a continuous process.
The residence of former President Rawlings, which is located along the Independence Avenue, was also part of the places the AMA conducted their inspection. As the team made progress with their inspection, they paid an unannounced visit to the residence of former President Rawlings, where he articulated the significance of the project to the country.
In our community, we used to have the Tangase, we used to have, what do we call it, the police, the enforcement agencies, etc. Go to the school compounds, there's not one single policeman. There's not one single court or whatever it is, a Tangase man. You only have children, students, their teachers and the headmaster. And yet they are able to maintain a high sense of discipline, and that discipline is reflected in their compound to look as clean as it does. I'm saying not a single policeman is on those compounds, and yet we are the adults. It affects us in so many ways. This is part of the corruption. Take the fight to them. Environment.
Former President Jerry John Rawlings. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has officially launched the Sniper Enforcement House-to-House Sanitary Inspection Project. The Metropolitan Chief Executive Mohammed Ajay warned that heads of the public health units who do not intend to desist from politicizing the work of the officers to help improve sanitation in the city will be dealt with accordingly.
The AMA has vowed to get tough on sanitation offenders to realize President Nana Akufo-Addo's dream of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa. The city authorities on a daily basis are alarmed at the attitude of both companies and individuals who indiscriminately dump waste materials onto streets, gutters and drains. At the launch of the house-to-house sanitary inspection project in Accra, dubbed Sniper Enforcement Sama Sama Project, the Metropolitan Chief Executive Mohammed Ajay warned that individuals and companies caught dumping garbage onto unapproved sites will be prosecuted or pay large fines to serve as a deterrent to others.
We cannot continue to sweep whilst people litter. We cannot continue to clean the environment whilst people throw refuse into the drains and leave refuse unattended to in their compounds. We are not going to leave any stone unturned in pursuance of making Accra clean and healthy.
He cautioned heads of various metro public health offices to desist from politicizing the issue to allow the officers to strictly enforce sanitation bylaws.
We should be prepared to put our political life on this project. If we succeed or otherwise, posterity will judge all of us.
The Director Metro Public Health of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Victor Akwe, said they will begin the enforcement of the project on Wednesday, August 2, from the various markets. Here, traders selling close to insanitary drains and displaying foodstuffs less than 3 feet from the ground will be issued with instant summons.
You know, we have so many activities that we perform. We perform educational activities. We also disseminate information. But we're talking about enforcement. We have certain areas that we will not even give notice. We will not waste our time educating. It will go on direct action. We have Okanko enough that did the arrest of people who are dumping on the highway. And you know, the fine that they imposed at the time was 720 Ghana cedi. But like they said, the law is the bosom of the judge. So the judge will decide what fine to impose.
All right, let's turn our attention away from sanitation. The Ghana Audit Service has issued 4 certificates of indebtedness to public servants, surcharging them for causing financial loss to the state. According to the Auditor General Daniel Yao Domlevo, 7 more certificates of indebtedness to the state are expected to be issued before close of day to other public servants.
2 weeks ago, I issued the first batch of 4 certificates, and they are gone and served on the people. I'm reviewing 7 more files, and before the close of day today, I'll be issuing 7 more certificates, because my review shows that work done is good, and so we will have reached 11. We are going gradually. Currently, the only person issuing this certificate is the Auditor General, myself, because I want to be sure that I start on a very good note. The certificate is issued to establish your indebtedness. We tell you that we are satisfied that after doing our audit, we are satisfied that we have gathered enough evidence to say you did this wrong. We mentioned the exact thing that you have done wrong to the tune of this, and we are surcharging you with that amount. And since you did it 2 or 3 years ago, we are collecting interest at the lending rate of Bank of Ghana up to a certain amount. So we don't issue certificate at the start or in the middle. It is when you have established all the evidence and you are certain that the guy, the gentleman or the lady is culpable, then we issue the certificate.
This is still Midday Live on TV3. What we'll do is that we'll be speaking to Professor Jampo about recent developments in Parliament where the minority has incessantly complained that the Speaker has been biased against them and saying that yesterday, for instance, they staged a walkout. And what we would want to find out, how is that injuring Ghana's democracy? The minority in Parliament walked out of the chamber in protest over the conduct of the Speaker, Professor Mike Okoye. This was after the Speaker had ignored views from the minority leader Haruna Idrisu when a motion on the Ameri deal was moved in the House by Member of Parliament for Adansia Sokwa, K.T. Hammer. Now, the minority accused the Speaker of endangering parliamentary democracy.
The MP for Adansia Sokwa, K.T. Hammond, had filed a motion asking for the rescission of the Ameri deal, which was approved by the last parliament. The minority had also raised issues asking for official government's position on it. On Tuesday, K.T. Hammond moved the motion and was seconded to by the Deputy Majority Leader. The Speaker then referred the matter to the Mines and Energy Committee, but the minority raised objections, arguing the standing orders were not being followed. While the Minority Leader was on his feet, K.T. Hammond rose for a point of order. He said since he had not made known the information he had, the Minority Leader, who was referring to a Supreme Court ruling, should be ruled out of order, to which the Speaker did. The Minority Leader was not given the opportunity to continue with his statement, and the Speaker gave his ruling. The minority said the Speaker was again showing disrespect to them.
The matter the Chief Parliament considered was referred to it by the Executive. We have since not had answers to it. The Speaker was not prepared to interpret the standing orders, even though he is vested with authority to do so. More importantly, even as I was on my feet and I referred to the Ndabugri versus the Attorney General and 2 others, he did not allow me to refer to the particular quote. He only responded to a point of order by the Honorable K.T. Hammond and again went into his bizarre conclusion on the matter. Under the circumstance, we have no option than to protest the manner in which he is endangering parliamentary democracy and its practice.
Minority Chief Whip indicated if the Speaker continues on such a path, they may be compelled to start an impeachment process against him.
For the first time, let's go and check on the 53. It is the majority leader who gets up with the indulgence of the Mr. Speaker and the House to vary the business of the day. You don't have the speaker himself running the house as if it's a small church or his small home where he decides which business he calls. It's not done that way. You were the one who were debating the Get More 2. Members get up. You participate in the debate. Speaker does not participate in the debate. He was participating in the debate. Such an important thing. He said he was going to allow only 2 people to speak. We decided that fine. We want 2 people to speak. Let them have the space. Even when a member, Honorable Mama Yaga, was reminding him that this is the only platform that ordinary citizens of this country can express themselves without being held, he will not bite.
Meanwhile, the majority leader said the minority is not subjecting themselves to the rules of the House.
They want to be granted exemption of the rules. That certainly cannot be accommodated. That cannot be accommodated. So we are talking about the rules of procedure. Parliament is a house that makes laws, and we ourselves are governed by laws.
All right, so we'll stay with this subject matter a while longer. We've been joined by Professor Ransford Jampo. He's a political scientist, and we want to pick his thoughts on this development following the several calls by the minority that the speaker seemed to be biased towards the majority rather than even considering their views. Professor Jampo, you have joined us by Skype. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, to start with, what are your initial comments about the several complaints by the minority? From where you sit, do you think they really have a case to cry foul about?
Well, I don't know. It is normal for the minority that wants to have its way to always accuse the speaker of bias. This is not the first time. Several speakers have undergone have had to endure this accusation of being biased and all that. So, I mean, in my view, it is quite normal. The point that must be made is that in every democratic dispensation, even though it is a feature of democracy for us to have tolerance and respect for the views of the minority, it's also about the views of the majority. And so the point must be made that the minority must always be allowed to have their say, but the majority would also have its way. And it becomes difficult in democratic practice for the minority to have to want to move beyond having their say to having their way.
Right.
And so if they try that much to have their way, and then you have a speaker who is also bent on enforcing procedures, rules of procedures, then you have some of these accusations of bias.
But Prof, what kind of injury would you say that this normalcy, as you put it, for minority to always raise concerns, what kind of injury is it having on parliamentary democracy?
No. I don't think Parliament is about constant dialogue and discussions and raising of issues of concerns and all that. I mean, there is no injury here at all. The point that must be made is that even though the Speaker must respect the rules of procedures and implement these rules, in my view, it must be done in a manner that wouldn't raise unnecessary suspicion. The Speaker of Parliament must not only be fair and neutral, in spite of his partisan bias, he must be perceived and be seen as fair, unbiased, and conciliatory as he presides over parliamentary proceedings. And so I'm saying that, yes, he has the right to ensure the right thing is done, and procedures must be respected and all that. Minority must be responsible in their utterances and what they seek to do. They must not push the speaker too much. In much the same way, the speaker must also be seen to be conciliatory in a manner that he goes about it. So basically, this is not something that is happening the first time, though Ajahu was also accused of being biased and being unfair to the then minority. But I think we may all want to cast our minds back to the days of Peter Alajete, the days of Justice D.F. Annan. I mean, they performed their functions in a manner that endeared them to both sides of the divide, minority and majority. And so, as much as we want to call on the Speaker to ensure that the procedures are respected, if there is something that he can do to make him appeal to all the sides, there is something that he can do to make him be seen as conciliatory and not so biased, and all that. He has a duty to bring all sides together, and in my view, the current Speaker has what it takes to be a neutral arbiter in steering the affairs of Parliament. And so I would urge him to bring all of them on board and to ensure that this impasse is resolved. It's becoming one too many, and it's too early.
But that is the concern many are raising, looking at the fact that at least no week goes by without the minority raising this, and it looks as if the Speaker is totally, in his own lane, not allowing these concerns being raised by the minority to, worry him in any way. If it continues like this, to whom do you think the minority can raise their concern, or they can only be staging walkouts like that?
Well, staging walkouts and raising concerns and all that are all part of parliamentary democracy, and they are all part of the mechanisms.
But doesn't that affect the debate on the floor? Wouldn't it have any impact on content that needs to be debated?
Yes, it affects the quality of debate, and it's when they continue to do this, it constitutes a great disservice to parliamentary democracy in Ghana. And so that's why we urge in the Speaker that, yes, I've checked what happened yesterday, and I realized that it seems to me that the Speaker was just going by procedures of the House and all that. But the minority also wanted things done in a particular way. And I am saying that if giving in to what the minority is requesting for wouldn't hurt rules of procedures, and it will not hurt anything. In democracy, we have always customs and conventions evolving every now and then. And so if giving in to what the minority is saying wouldn't hurt procedures and wouldn't spoil anything, why not? We could just meet them halfway through. But that is also not to say that rules of procedures must always be compromised because of minority. Minority would always have must be allowed, not necessarily to have their way, because democracy is also about the views of the majority.
Okay. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us. Professor Ransford Jampo is a political scientist and was helping us understand whether or not we are having a problem on our hand following minorities' continuous complaints of bias towards the majority or against them. We would want to speak to our parliamentary correspondent, Evelyn Tingma. She is on the floor, or at least in Parliament, to find out whether or not the minority have returned following their walkout yesterday from the House. And we know that Parliament will be rising today. What business is being discussed? Evelyn, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Martin.
Yeah, so can you confirm whether the minority is back, and if yes, has business commenced?
Martin, yes, the minority members are back. As we speak, they are in the chamber. I can see the minority leader, James Kushi, seated there. We have Honorable also sitting there, and some other members. They are seated in the chamber. But as we see, the House is yet to start proceedings. Yesterday, we were told that proceedings today would start at 10 a.m., but as the Speaker is yet to come in for them to start work. And so the minority are here, and the majority members are also here, a couple of them. And so we are waiting for the Speaker to come in. I cannot tell what exactly is holding them on, but I want to hazard that few committees are having some meetings, but that is the situation here. But the minority, they are back.
Right. And on our screens now, we can see live images from the floor of Ghana's Parliament. And we're speaking to our correspondent, Evelyn Tingma. Evelyn, and just before you go, have they raised, are they reserved, or they are having, the normal chit-chats with their majority colleagues? And looking at the fact that yesterday it looked quite heated. Are they back to normal conversations, at least before proceedings begin?
Yes, exactly, Martin. And they're having that. Because even before Honorable Asiedu-Dartey seats at the minority side, I saw him with some members from the majority. He went to their side and they were chatting and laughing. And I also saw Honorable Asiedu-Dartey and the chairman of the Finance Committee, Honorable Asiedu-Dartey, they were seated at the end of where the speaker table is. They were seated there and chatting. So it's a normal thing, but just that the minority yesterday walked out and they said that they just wanted to protest against the speaker's attitude towards them, and that the speaker is not respecting them as minority, especially their leader who will be on the seat, and the speaker wouldn't call him. So it is not anything. They just wanted to protest against the speaker's conduct towards the minority.
All right. Thank you so much, Evelyn Tingma, TV3's parliamentary correspondent. She will bring us details in our subsequent bulletins. This is still Midday Live on TV3. We'll be back with business. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with TV3. This is Midday Live, time to do business. And fuel prices could go up by 3% in the first pricing window, which began on August 1. The projected increase is attributed to a rise in the price of crude oil and finished petroleum products on the international market.
Fuel prices remained stable during the last two windows due to the decline in price of crude oil on the world market, a 1 to 2% fall in the prices of petroleum products, and a slight depreciation of the cedi against the major trading currencies. Both the Institute for Energy Security (IES) and the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers (COPEC) have projected a 1 to 3% increase in fuel prices at the pumps in the first pricing window. Principal Research Analyst of the Petroleum Unit of IES, Gilbert Richmond Roxon, gives the indicators for the projection.
Brent is selling around $52 per barrel. When you look at prices for finished products for gasoline and gas oil, they also went up. And gasoline has gone up by about 2%. Gas oil has also gone up by about 3%. Currently selling around $450 per metric ton. Our inventory is fairly good. We have fairly enough stock that can take us for a while. The cedi has relatively been stable.
On the new standard of 50 per parts million of sulfur content, IES is of the view that the MPA should have tied the timelines to 2020 given to Tema Oil Refinery to produce the 50 ppm.
Our fear is that the MPA is not taking its time to do this. When you look at the history of certain countries, you can take US, you can take South Africa. As far back as 1991, they were doing about 3,000 ppm, and it's been gradual. It's a gradual process because swift change in standards can have adverse effects on engines as well. So we think it's a good idea, but the MPA should hasten in its implementation.
COPEC is worried the National Petroleum Authority has missed all the deadlines given to the OMCs and BDCs.
In other news, the Ghana Climate Innovation Center has embarked on a regional sensitization fora dubbed the Green Business Roadshow. The fora will provide a platform for the center to engage with stakeholders who are into climate innovation businesses, a commodity called Ghana's green economy.
The first of the regional fora took place in Sunyani, where budding entrepreneurs involved in climate innovation ventures attended. The Ghana Climate Innovation Center intends to support local entrepreneurs to develop appropriate business solutions in mitigating climate change in Ghana. Gloria Saredu, who made use of the Ghana Climate Innovative Center ideas years ago, is now the proprietors of Global Bamboo Company, engaged in the use of bamboo which is climate friendly.
I have some outgrowers who are working with us. What they do is that they intercrop crops with the bamboo. So they plant the bamboo and then they also intercrop with their maize, with their cassava and other things. And where we cultivate the bamboo, it gives them a higher yield.
The Deputy Bono Ahafo Regional Minister Evans Opoku-Bobie commended the organizers for instituting the program to promote climate-friendly business ventures. The Executive Director of the Ghana Climate Innovative Center, Ruka Sanusi, explained how one could access support from the center.
Our responsibility as part of a particular program at the World Bank is to ensure that climate change is at the forefront of our mind and to support businesses who also have climate change at the forefront of their mind to ensure that this wonderful, amazing world that we live in will exist for generations to come to enjoy it.
All right, so that'll be it for business. We are coming back with the big news in sports shortly. Stay with us.
Hi, good afternoon. This is now time for sports here on Midday Live. My name is Yao Fosulabi. And on to our first story now. The biggest news today, Barcelona forward Neymar has been given permission to discuss a world record €222 million, which is a £189 million transfer from Paris Saint-Germain. In a communique released by the club, the Catalan Giants confirmed that the player and his father, who doubles as his agent, had expressed their desire to leave Spain. The Brazil international then told his teammates at training on Wednesday that he wanted to leave the Spanish club. He was then given permission by Barcelona manager Ernesto Valverde not to train and to sort out his future. The 23-year-old contract has a release clause set at €222 million, which Barcelona wants to receive in full, and PSG are understood to be ready to pay. It looks like Neymar's time at Barcelona is done. Also, very interesting news there. Neymar set to leave Barcelona. But let's look at how Neymar's contract will look like. And he's supposed to sign a 6-year deal at Barcelona and from away from Barcelona to PSG, and a staggering £500,000 a week deal for him, with a total cost of all the transfer, which is going to reach £352 million. That's £198 million in the release clause, and then £156 million in wages. Now, the motto for PSG is Rêvons plus grand, which translates to dream bigger. And I'm sure PSG fans might have dreamt bigger, and now they have their star man, Neymar, their 6-year deal, £500,000 a week, a total cost of £352 million. That's quite staggering. So that's what is the update on Neymar at the moment. Well, away from the football, let's do some athletics now. The Ministry of Youth and Sports has released an amount of $84,990 for the 8 athletes set to represent the nation at the 2017 World Athletics Championships in London. Ghana will be represented by 3 individuals and 5 members of the relay team at the World event from the 4th to the 13th of August 2017. All members of the team have arrived in the English capital ahead of the games. The team, spearheaded by 200-meter sprinter Janet Amponsan and Emmanuel Dasso, who runs the 400 meters, is hoping their weeks of preparation will be fruitful in London. The total budget presented by the Ghana Athletics Association is $84,990, which will cover airfares, accommodation, feeding, and per diem. Ghana's campaign begins on the 5th of August when Emmanuel Dasso takes on the tracks for the 400 meters. To our next athletic story, and record breaker and holder of the world's 100-meter, 200-meter and 4x100 meter, Usain Bolt has some advice for young athletes as the world prepares for the World Championships in London. Bolt reckons anything is possible for young athletes who put their minds to the sports.
One thing I would like to do is travel around and try to inspire kids and talk to a lot of different people, like coaches or younger kids, or just to try to inspire them as much as possible, you know what I mean? Try to explain to them what I've been through throughout my career in different ways and try to help to motivate them. I think no athlete will ever wish their world record will ever be broken in their lifetime, you know what I mean? I don't want to see it go. I want to brag to my kids when they're 15 or 20 and say, look, see, I'm still the best, you know what I mean? So hopefully not. For me.
That's all the sports here on Midday Live. My name is Yao Fosulabi. There's more sports news on our website, 3news.com. Martin.
Thank you very much, Yao Fosulabi. We don't have time, but next time,
when
I come back again, I want to be a footballer. All right, this is still Midday Live. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
7,000 people from Niger are now living lives of refugees in Chad as a result of the fear of Boko Haram attacks. According to the UNHCR, thousands more may cross the border if the violence escalates. The recent arrivals in the Lake Chad region have been compelled to leave Niger following the attacks by Islamists. The UN agency said those who crossed the border into Chad said at least 10,000 more people could immediately follow because of fears for their safety in southern Niger. The home of Nigeria's former president Goodluck Jonathan in the capital Abuja has been stripped bare by burglars. A statement by his spokesperson Ekechukwu is quoted by Premium Times newspaper. Thieves stole every movable item in the house, including furniture sets, beds, electronics, toilet and electrical fittings. He corrected earlier reports that 36 plasma TVs, 25 refrigerators, noting only 6 television sets, 3 refrigerators and 1 gas cooker were stolen. A number of suspects, including 6 policemen, have been arrested. The burglary happened in July.
Time now for entertainment news. In entertainment news this afternoon, sensational gospel icon Nicholas Omane Echampong, known for his interesting and attention-grabbing song titles, is set to release his 6th album. Osuwarai tells us the Apostle hitmaker is coming up with yet another controversial title.
Nicholas Omane Echampong is a household name when it comes to gospel music. His inspirational songs aside, the hit makers' titles have always been a major talking point.
Apostle. Zafana Pania, Mahashala, Apostle Ubejem. They are talking about Tabitha Kum.
2 years after his 2015 mega hit Apostle, the versatile singer is ready with a fresh album.
This song.
Expectedly, the new title is also jaw-breaking.
Can we hear the title?
Yaga Sahaduta.
We know a lot of people be wondering what's the meaning of this one too.
It's a name of a covenant. This covenant was between Laban and Jacob. So what the song is all about is that the one that God himself has a covenant with him, such as Abraham. There is nothing anybody can do to bring that person down.
For those who find the Jega Sahaduta mouthful to pronounce, you may say Aduta just to avoid biting your tongue.
Just call it Aduta and I will do the main, name Jega Sahaduta for you. It's not a big deal.
The singer is known for many things, but certainly not for singing in pidgin.
Now God did bless my work, if you hate me, die you. Enemies no be God, Abi.
The hitmaker explained after months of research, the Holy Spirit led him to the Bible, where the title Jega Sahaduta, meaning a covenant with God, was discovered.
Where can we find this word? This long word.
Let me keep this one for just about a week. You understand? It is there. It is right there. You understand? Jega Sahaduta is right there.
Arrangers are currently fine-tuning the song ahead of its release. Celebrated programmer Kwejo Akwabwa arranged the song.
See, anytime Nicholas will hit, bam! There was a
The 8-track album will be the Zapanet Pioneer Hitsmaker's first release in 2017 and is tipped to cause a major stir.
The Big Bang, this one is like a tsunami. It's like a tsunami bomb. Bwah! You can't stop it because...
Jega Sahaduta. Jega Sahaduta. It's in the Bible. Look for it. All right, so that's how we wrap up the bulletin. But before we go, we promised bringing you the position of the Christian Council with regard to the Gitmo 2. They say They stand by their position that those two should be returned to the United States, although Parliament has ratified their stay. In our subsequent bulletins, we'll delve into it. This is Midday Live. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Thank you very much for watching. Do have a good afternoon. As always, stay positive. Bye for now.